back to Candid Football Conversations. Another interview, another guest, and another hopefully insightful conversation that we'll have on the platforms of SportsKhabri and Arun Fort. And today, our guest is Floyd Pinto. Floyd, thanks a lot for taking time to speak to us. I hope we can get a little bit more insights into whatever you have done and achieved over the last few years as a coach within the Indian football system. But again, you are still assistant coach of Northeast United. There's been an interesting appointment in recent days. Manda Tamane has joined the club. Manda Tamane has joined the club as the CEO. Your first take on that?
First of all, thank you for having me on the show. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. I was the first one to congratulate him once it was confirmed that he's appointed by Northeast United FC. And I even shared a little post on Instagram saying it's godsend for Northeast United that finally, that I believe now there will be a structure in place with him coming in. There'll be a clear line of communication as to what needs to be done, not just with the first team, but I think right through the grassroots and as well as the reserves and the youths, etc. So I'm looking forward to that to see what's because I'm just happy for the club because after this year, it was clear that the club needed a direction. The club needed someone to set in a clear pathway as to how things needed to be done and a clear line of communication. And I think Mandar coming in will definitely help the club and take it in the right direction.
And that's, I think, very, very important. I think the Highlanders, the fans, the Highlanders Brigade will hope that Northeast United can turn things around. It's one of those regions which are football crazy. But we'll get a little bit more into that a little later because I want to go a little bit through a journey ride with you because you're not the typical sort of career of a football coach. Of course, you love football. You played football in your younger years. How did you get into coaching?
I've always been passionate about sport. So right through my school and college career, I've always been, playing almost every sport. You name it, and I've represented my school or college at that particular sport. But football has always been the one that I've been most passionate about. And believe it or not, it kind of rekindled, that love for football rekindled in my engineering college at Don Bosco, because they had one of the best footballing teams for an engineering college. There were, players who played for Air India, Mahindra at that point of time, and really potential players who were part of that college team. So as I started playing for them, I kind of started getting that love for football back again. But at that time, it was also very clear that making a career as a player was maybe gone way past its due date. So I started looking at options as to what can I do as far as maybe management or coaching is concerned. Now I am a big English football fan. And it's typical that in the Premier League you call the head coach the manager. It's not the head coach. Whereas in others they say, yeah, it's the coach, it's the head coach. So I was fascinated by the term manager. So for me, manager was the one as the head coach who would lead everything on and off the field. So I started researching into sports management courses or football management courses, thinking that would lead me into coaching. And I think that happened in the second year of engineering. I kind of made a decision that yes, this is where I see myself going. And fortunately, the administrator of the institute, Father Adolf Furtado, so he's one of my biggest mentors even today, and he was the one who told me, Floyd, your education matters. So while you want to pursue your urge to coach, get your engineering done, and have a feel of what football coaching is on as a part-time job, at first, and then take a call if you want to go into it full time. So he was the one who introduced me to Mr. Adib Kenkre and Kenkre Football Academy. So fortunately, they have a training center just a stone's throw away from where I stay at Sivaji Park. Uh, so, uh, so as I passed my engineering degree, uh, and I also had a job with ICICI Securities as a database administrator. So Mondays to Fridays, I was a database administrator, and on Saturday Sundays, I used to work as a part-time coach at Sivaji Park, starting with 6-year-olds. You know, they had a center there for the youngest lot of Kingsley Football Club, and as that schedule kind of grew on, I felt more and more happy where I was as a coach. And the feedback from Kinkre sir, the feedback from Joshua, the CEO of Kinkre FC, was very encouraging. And that's when I decided that once my contract with ICICI was up, that yes, I would like to take the plunge into coaching, and that's when I started coaching full time. So that's where the journey started. It was kind of the urge to do something that I'm really passionate about, because at that point of time I decided that if I succeed, great. If I don't, it's my fault, because it's my decision. No one's forcing me to do that. And I've had really good people around me, not just the administrator, Father Adolf, but the other professors as well were so encouraging as to, oh, you're going to, you know, uh, go to Manchester United or Liverpool one day. They knew about Manchester United, Barcelona, Real Madrid. So I had to calm them down a little bit, saying that, no, I just want to coach, in India. But they were very supportive. And even to this day, if they're always in touch as to what I'm doing, where I am right now, and if there's a small achievement or something like that, I always share it via WhatsApp to the professors out there, to Father Adolf. So that's where I started. And I even applied to 5 universities in the UK for sports management come football coaching. But at that point of time, especially after engineering, I felt that that would lead me more into management as opposed to
Mm.
coaching. And to be honest, I felt the financial burden at that point of time would be too much for me. So that's when I started thinking about the coaching licenses. And at that point of time, it wasn't that structured, it wasn't that organized in India. So believe it or not, the first license that I did was in England. I went out there at my own cost, supported by Kinkre FC as well, for my FA level 1 and FA level 2, which was equivalent to the AFCC license. So that's where I started my coaching journey and my coach education.
And that's an interesting journey from someone who, from an IT professional to a football coach. You've mentioned Kinkre FC, and that was your plunge into, even if it was youth, but it was into the club football scene. How important were the influences of Adib Kinkre, or Kinkre sir, as many call him in Mumbai, and of Joshua Lewis at Kinkre, that they gave you the chance, the opportunity to grow through that system at Kinkre FC?
Oh, it's huge. The 6 years that I spent at Kinkre, I think it has shaped me who I am today. If wherever I go down the line, wherever I end up, at whatever stage in my career, I would always say the most important place where I have benefited from working, the place that shaped me into the coach I am today, or if I have to give credit to a certain organization, it would be Kinkre Football Club, because it was the perfect environment for me as a coach to kind of test myself. I was in a free hand. I was coaching 6-year-olds right up to the men's professional team. And at that point of time, Kinkre Football Club was a semi-professional team, because they were part of the second division I League. So the I League teams were considered as professional teams. But it was very easy for me to leverage Kinkre Football Club, one, to be aggressive with pursuing my licenses, which was very important in India. And second was to kind of uh, coach each and every age group and up to the seniors. It was a challenge, because at one point of time in the morning, I'm with the senior boys, but in the evening, I'm coaching, 10, 12-year-olds. It was a challenge as to, how can I, adapt and my sessions, so that it's equally more challenging for these boys, as well. And then it comes to dealing with more things like off the field, dealing with parents. Why is my child not playing, or why is my child not playing as a striker? He should be, so these kind of challenges that were there kind of taught me a lot, how to deal with kids, how to deal with youth, how to deal with professional players, men and women both. Uh, Also, how the administrative side of things work. Because when I wasn't on the field, I was always in the office with Joshua, and we were literally trying to kind of build a nice calendar for Mumbai football. So we used to organize tournaments for youth throughout the year. At one point of time in the season, which was holidays post the exams, we used to take the entire group abroad to play in tournaments there, and we were really competitive. It was not that we are just going there to make up the numbers. We used to actually prepare 3-4 months in advance, train them, and make sure that the team is ready to go out there and compete. So a lot of things at Kenkre Football Club shaped me into what I am today. So I'll forever be grateful for the opportunity that they gave me. That is Adip King sir and Joshua.
And that's lovely to hear. I think a lot of people might not know this journey, that how it all started for you. How was it for you as a young coach who has sort of not had this background of playing the Mumbai League, the Harvard League, and elsewhere it's also a story that unlike in other parts of the world, that football without a top or semi-top level football background are not that much accepted as coaches. Was that a problem for you within the Kinkre setup, or was it a problem with you with the footballers when you were playing the Mumbai League?
Um, Not really. One, this is where education helped me, because I was able to communicate effectively. Uh, my knowledge with respect to using software or different kind of technologies was helpful. But more importantly, as I progressed through the ranks at Kenkre, uh, uh, I knew that preparation was key. So, be it the senior team, I had to prepare the preseason well in advance. So, once I was prepared, I knew I was confident enough to deliver that to the players. And it's there'll always be someone or the other to kind of go against the grind, but that's okay. Man management is something that is a very important part of a coach's life as well. And fortunately, we had a nice core group of players around at Kinkre Football Club, because most of those players there had come through the youth system. At one point of time, when we were playing in the second division I League, I think we had close to 85% of players who have come right through the ranks, right through the youth football ranks. So that was encouraging, and I had coached them right from the age of 15 or 13 years old up to the senior team. So that was something that worked for me. But right from then on, it was preparation was key. So uh, I made mistakes. It wasn't smooth sailing, but I learned from it. As And there were a good, uh, you know, there were good people around me. Like Joshua was always on hand to with his experience. Kingresser was always there to help me if I got stuck anywhere. We had a good group of coaches around, experienced coaches as well, and the opportunity what Kenkre gave was competitive games. So we had teams playing right through the Mumbai League. So that's for me as a coach. That's the epitome of where you test yourself as to what you're how far you've progressed as a coach and as a team. So we kept winning, we kept getting promotion. Uh, when we won the Maharashtra Championships in 2010, we were the youngest team to qualify for the second division I League. So all these kind of achievements, help solidify that belief. Okay, this guy knows what he's doing, and let's work along with him. So I think that's about it with respect to not having a professional football career background. It's in the past right now, so it's not something that I think about.
Then came the big jump from the Mumbai football system that you worked in as a senior and as junior coach to the All India Football Federation? How did that come about?
Uh, so it was at a time where I kind of was thinking about what's going to be the next step for me. And one thing that I had planned in for my development, that I wanted to move into an environment where uh, I was focused on maybe a particular team, be it maybe the under 19s, or be it a reserve team, or be it the first team. uh, that was the aim. So while I was doing my A license, Scott O'Donnell was the technical director at that point of time, and uh, he kind of liked the way I uh, delivered sessions, and I was performing throughout the course. And there was also a parallel conversation going on with Bengaluru FC at that point of time, when Ashley Westwood was the coach of that team. So I had the option of going to either one of them, uh, but at that point I had decided, yes, now at Kenkre I was managing maybe a youth development team, the under 17s, the under 19s, the senior team. I wanted to go into a more structured environment, preferably a more residential environment where you can work with the players 24 by 7, and there's a little structure to what's happening in the association. So fortunately, and Mandar was my point of contact at that point of time at Bengaluru FC as well. Uh, and I remember Scott came in with an offer to coach one of the youth teams, because they were having a change in coaches at that point of time. Uh, so as soon as I got the offer, I gave a call to Mandar saying that, uh, I've decided to take up the national team setup. Uh, it appeals to me, and I would like to do this. And he was very encouraging at that point of time as well. So he said, "Yeah, Floyd, if you're getting an opportunity with the national team, you shouldn't, let that go." So that's where my journey with the AIFF setup started, and shifted to Goa. 5 years of uh, really good, competitive, high intensity, high pressure football began.
You started as an assistant with the under 17s, also assisted Luis Norton de Matos in the I League as well as for the Indian Arrows. And then you're appointed India under 19 coach. How was
Yeah.
that for you personally?
At one point of time, we were like, stuck in the middle a little bit, because we had taken over. I had taken over the group of Anirudh Thapa, Jerry,
Mm.
uh, Lalin Zwala, because these guys had just finished off their cycle with the AFC. So we were caught in between as to because there was already an under 19 group under Shabir Pasha, which
Mm.
was Daniel Lalempuya's group, and before us there was the under 17 World Cup team. So we were kind of stuck in the middle as to what's happening. So it that period was very crucial for me to settle down as a coach in the AF system, because we did a lot of extensive scouting. Coaching the group of Thapa, Jerry, Prasanjit, etc. was a joy, because they were such well trained, well coached, well developed players, that taking them to the next level was a very good challenge that I was relishing at that point of time. Then came the World Cup. The batch of Thapa, Jerry passed out, and then it was kind of a merger with the under 19s and the under 17 World Cup team at that point of time. So one was the experience of playing in the I League, because we were no longer, you know, considered as a youth team. We were now the Indian Arrows, playing in a competitive league. So it was at being the assistant coach. It was kind of it's uh, good to see from standing back how things are done, because Lewis Norton had his own assistant as well.
Mhm.
So they had a kind of way of working with the boys. The boys knew exactly how he wanted to play. The under 19 boys coming in, like Sahil Panwar, Ashish Rai, kind of added a little bit of stability to them as well, and physicality as well. So that was a good experience, the first season in the I League. So when I took over the next season, it was easier for me to transition into a head coach because I knew what the boys were capable of. Largely, the boys were part of the Under 17 World Cup squad. So the style of play, the philosophy that they had gone through the years, uh, uh, it was a very delicate balance as to how we needed to move forward. So, and most of the players, Suresh, Amarjeet, Rahul KP, Rahim Ali, Anwar, these guys were very adamant and very sure about the way they wanted to play. They wanted to progress from being just a counter-attacking team into a team that keeps possession of the ball and works through the transition, works through the thirds, from the defense to the attack and midfield. So they wanted to have more possession of the ball. So that was the challenge in itself in the I League, and fortunately at that point of time I had the opportunity to have Mahesh Gauli as the assistant. So him being part of the setup added a little bit of that class. The way he played, uh, I think I haven't seen a better defender more comfortable on the ball than him, and he kind of transitioned that to the players. So he handled a lot of the defensive side of things, the build up, etc., made the players comfortable on the ball, whereas it left the tactical side of things to me and the finalization part to me. So we had a good combination going with these boys, and it was difficult to turn the team around in one season. But for us, a sense of achievement was after the season end. One was at the end of the season, we finished way ahead of the relegation zone where we were last season, although we were immune to relegation. So that was an achievement in itself, that we were almost mid-table. And but the win against Kerala Blasters in the Super Cup thereafter, it kind of gave us we came full cycle during that game, because we weren't sitting back or defending like they were at the World Cup. We took the game to Kerala Blasters. We were pressing high. We were keeping possession of the ball. We were quick in transition, both in attack and defense, and we deserved that 2-0 win. And at that point of time, you get that sense of achievement as a coach, that what you have done in what the process that you have started is bearing fruit. So that at that point of time, to this date, if anybody asks me, what's the highlight of your career so far, I would always refer to that Kerala Blasters game. Although there's another game that everybody knows about, and it's a much more spectacular result abroad that they refer to. But for me, as a coach, the sense of achievement was that win against Kerala Blasters in the Super Cup.
I don't remember. Were you the coach or assistant coach? I remember a match against Mohun Bagan where the Mohun Bagan crowds appreciated the Indian arrows. I remember I was there at that game, and I was quite surprising, because rarely a Kolkata crowd will really appreciate an away team.
I think that was the first season. I don't know whether was it at the Salt Lake or was it at the Mohun Bagan ground.
I think it was at the Mohun Bagan ground, if I'm not wrong.
That season I was the assistant. That was the first
assistant, because I was quite impressed with the Mohun Bagan crowd. Remember the players went over, and the players were a little shy, and should we go over really? And then they really went out, and it was a lovely thing to see. And the Mohun Bagan fans, this is the future of Indian football. So that was a nice scene to see. I think that is also a bonus that the Arrows had to some extent. And coming back to Mahesh for a second, Mahesh Gauli, who now is of course the assistant coach of the senior national team under Igor Stimac. Mahesh used to always have this calm and quiet, controlled demeanor about him. Is he also the same as a coach, or does he get a little bit more into it? Because I was talking to Deepak Mondal the other day, his sort of partner in crime in his playing days. And of course, Deepak said, he, like you said, I've never played with anyone better than with Mahesh Gauli as a defender.
No, it's same with him. He's the thing with Mahesh is always well prepared. So we always knew what we are going to do the day before, the session the day after. So he was always well prepared with respect to the structure of his training sessions. But and he demanded quality. he set the standard really high when it came down to especially the defensive side of things, and it wasn't we were it wasn't something extraordinary that he was asking the players. He knew the capabilities of all these players. You imagine the players that were there at that point of time. It would be Sanjeev Stalin, Boris Singh, Anwar Ali, Narendra Gehlot, Jitu, you know, Jackson. So you know the quality of these players because some of them are now in the Indian national team, the first team. So he demanded quality. He demanded a sense of kind of desire from the players to never settle, to always challenge yourself in every session, and nothing's impossible. Because if they would say, sir, how can we do it? It's not possible. He would actually show it to them. That was the advantage that Mahesh had. Easy. It was easy for him. Say, be it 1v1 defending, simple basics. The one thing that we worked on that entire season, was basics. There was very few tactical elements that we worked through the entire season to change that team to change the philosophy of a particular team. We decided that we need to go down right through the basics. So it was basic body positioning. Say, okay, ball orientation. Where's the goal? Where's the ball? These kind of details. That is what I love about Mahesh. That when it comes down to the finer aspects of the game, he knows exactly what's needed in each and every position, and not just the defense. And the players absorbed all of that, week in, week out. And you could see the improvements of the players right through the season. And then as we played the Super Cup, you could see that, the players are now in a different zone altogether, and the sky is the limit for them from now on.
Lovely to hear. A little bit of a controversial question maybe for certain people, but what's your feeling that the AFF has shut down the Arrows project?
I would love for the Arrows project to have continued, because the one thing that I felt set the AIFF academies apart was the level of training that we gave the boys. One, there was a lot of emphasis on recovery. There was a lot of emphasis on nutrition. There was a lot of emphasis on how you, uh, you know, showcase yourself as a professional player. And no matter where you are in the system, stay humble, keep your head down, work hard, and prove yourself. And if you have a look at the players that have now come through the system and are now representing the senior national team and various ISL I League teams in the first team, are all players of the AIFF, are all products of the AIFF academy. So so I felt that that group of players now for the next generation will be missed, and hopefully now clubs, for example, can kind of take that onto themselves, and kind of impart the same level of training, the same level of competition, and strive to maybe develop a sense of professionalism around these players coming from that setup. So I really miss the Arrows project. I for one benefited from it as a coach, and I know that a lot of players benefited from that, and are now doing really well in their careers. So there must be something really right about that project. I don't know about the technicalities at the back, but just the project in itself, and the on-field aspect, the on-field impact that it has had in Indian football, I for one would love to see that project revived.
And I couldn't agree more. And I remember when Colm Toll actually with Bob Houghton started the project many years back. And some of our current senior national team players, be it Gurpreet Singh Sandhu, be it Pritham Kotal, even the likes of a JJ, have been products of this program, to talk about more than a decade back. And I think it was a very good transition also for these India youth internationals into
Yes.
the senior level of football, and I think that is being missed. Maybe in the future the AFF will revive it again, in the interest of Indian football. And as you said, and I feel the same. Again, what has happened in the past or in the background, I think that should not be the main yardstick. But I think the end product of creating quality players who go on to represent the Indian national team, I think that should have been sort of the focus of this program. We spoke a little bit about the origins of Floyd Pinto, the coach, your journey from Kenkre into the AFF setup, and I hope the listeners, the viewers can realize sort of the way your thought process, your approach to football. But before I come to what you've done in the I League and the ISL, maybe talk a little bit more about what is, if Floyd Pinto is the head coach, what kind of football would you like to play if you have the players for that?
uh, I've always, ever since be it Kenkre Football Academy, the tagline for Kenkre Football Academy was "Play the beautiful game beautifully." So we were always encouraged by Kenkre sir and Joshua to make sure that we develop not only good football players but also good human beings. And we've always encouraged the players to be as comfortable on the ball as possible and to express themselves on the ball as much as possible. And that philosophy I carried that philosophy along with me to the AFF setup. And at that point of time, it was the philosophy of Robban, the Dutch philosophy, which was 4-3-3. We needed to press high. We wanted the ball back. We needed to keep the ball, build up from the back. And it was a very smooth transition into AIFF football. And it has always stayed with me wherever I have been. I have always managed to, uh, get the players to be more comfortable on the ball, to keep the ball as much as possible. But as time has passed, I've also encouraged the players to play forward as much as possible. So when we were with the best group that I have been with has been the group of Anirudh Thapa and Jerry Lalrinswala. Especially, I still remember the game against Crystal Palace in the IFA Shield, the semi-final of the IFA Shield. We completely, I think, outplayed them, and it was with the ball. It wasn't,
Mhm.
hit and run football. So apart from having the players uh, that you that you need, it's also trying to raise the level of the players that you have. I feel that is more important as a coach. Wherever I have been, even if you take the small stint that I had now with the Super Cup with Northeast United, we didn't achieve anything. It wasn't there wasn't any achievement in terms of trophies or anything like that. But as a coaching staff, what we took away from the Super Cup is that we improved each and every player, right from the physical aspect to the technical and the tactical aspect. And more importantly, after the season that we had in the ISL, it was the mental aspect that needed to be uh, targeted the most. So that we always talk about philosophies and shapes and you know what's going to be your game model and all that stuff. But if you aren't going to be able to manage players, if you aren't going to be able to convince the players to play for you, I don't think any of those philosophies or any game model is going to work. So as time has gone on, one, uh, you know I've learned to manage with respect to the time I have, as to how much can I get out of these boys, with respect to shapes, with respect to tactics, with respect to intensity of the game. Uh, and I'm able to adjust a little bit with respect to that. Uh, in both the AIFF and in Northeast United, uh, I inherited teams that were more defensive and countered, had more transitions on the counter. But towards the end of my stint, even if it was a 1 month stint in the Super Cup, the players kept more possession. The players were to string a few more passes as compared to previously,
Mhm.
and more importantly, create chances, which eventually led to goals. So I think I'll take that as a positive at this point of time. And as a coach, if I enter any environment, I am confident in myself that I can improve the players that are with me. And for in order to lay a foundation, in order to lay a philosophy in place, it takes a bit of time. And given that time, you can see a big difference in the way the teams will play.
How much of an influence is Liverpool Football Club on you?
Oh, huge, huge. I'm a big.
I mean, I
Uh,
can I can see the red in the background. That matches sort of Anfield a little bit. Akshata in the background will also be very happy. She's also a Liverpool fan. So, yeah, let's you never. Let's talk a little bit. You never walk alone. Has Liverpool and Jurgen Klopp's way of football also been influence on the way you want
A
your teams
big
to play? Because you're saying you want to play possession football. That sounds more Pep Guardiola football. But has Liverpool been influence on you? How much
big,
has it
yeah,
been?
possession based, but with the intent of scoring or intent of moving forward as much as possible. Before Klopp, it was Steven Gerrard. I think he's been the biggest influence in my career. Because I relate a lot to him with respect to, obviously he's hugely talented, but his work ethic, his leadership qualities, his never say die attitude, uh, you know, and he was someone that oozes class on the ball, but worked twice as hard when he lost it.
Mm.
And you know, uh, the urge, to not take defeat and to kind of not accept defeat and always try to, go win, uh, if anything goes wrong. So especially the final in Istanbul was kind of the peak of his career. I, 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 I find a lot of similarities in the way I work in that sense. I'm a more workaholic kind of coach. I like to get hands on when it comes to training sessions. I like to demand quality, but with quality, there has to be an intensity of play. And off late, I think Jurgen Klopp has kind of changed the way, that I think about football. But like I said in a previous interview as well, I cannot replicate that in Indian football. I think I'll be sacked in about a month's time if I try to get that out. So, but it's gradual. One thing that I've learned is that yeah, you can be technically uh, adept with the ball, but you need to have an element of physicality to yourself. You need to be able to keep up with what's happening now at the highest level of Indian football, which is the Hero Indian Super League. It's not a walk in the park. You need to have a lot of qualities together. You need to be coachable at first. If you're not, and
Mm.
you're not able to kind of take in the information and put it into practice on the field of play week in week out, you're not going to be able to develop as a player, or you're not going to be make that step up to the next level, especially if you uh, have ambitions of playing in the national team. And I've been through a few camps as well with the national team, be it with Stephen Constantine and now with Igor Stimac, and I've picked up a lot of points and a lot of preparation uh, programs from them as well, and try to incorporate that as much as possible into what I feel I need to do with the teams. So there's been a lot of influence going around. Yes, Liverpool will always be an influence in my life, uh, wherever I am. But it's also trying to figure out what works best with the players that I have at my disposal. Is, I think, one of the traits that a coach should have, and he should be adaptable to that kind of environment in order to get the best out of his players.
Mhm. Well, that's very, very well said and very, very well explained. Next step in your career, you join a club with whom I've also had a relationship, Round Glass Punjab. You joined them in the I League. You joined them in the bubble in COVID times. How much of a challenge was that to go into a new setup um, in these very, very difficult times in 2020?
Again, at one point of time, the Arrows being in the I League, it had given me, I had set a standard, I had set a target for myself that now I wanted to get out of youth football and get into the professional setup. Fortunately, the Arrows gave me a season in the I League, and I was happy with that. I loved the experience of working with the boys, and that triggered uh, the urge now to step up into the I League. And fortunately, Round Glass were in. It was their first season in professional football, uh, and I had a lovely conversation with the technical director, then Michael, and
Michael
then
Brown. Yeah.
Michael Brown and Curtis, who was already in India 6 months prior to the I League starting, who had already taken the reserve team squad into the second division. So at that point of time, I was sure that I'm going to be part of the I League team next season. and it took quite a while because it was one of the clubs that had such an extensive recruitment process. I think I went through, I think, 6 or 7 or 8 interviews before I got my contract. And by the time I had my contract, Michael had left and Nikos had come in as a
Mm-hmm.
technical director as well. But I was fortunate to be with Round Glass during that bubble. I think if it was any other team in the bubble, it would have been a much more torrid time. But I think Round Glass is a well organized setup. They have the power, they have the facilities, and they have the money to kind of provide a right environment for the players, and provide everything to the players to make sure that they give their best on the field of play. And we had a very good two good coaches, Curtis Fleming, who's now the assistant coach at Bristol City in the championship, and then Ashley Westwood. Both the coaches, demanded a lot out of the players, but we provided a lot to the players as well. We had a recreational room uh, on our floor. We even had, kind of a snack room where the players could come in and make their own sandwiches or something like that. We had a dedicated training ground for both the seasons in the I League in Bidan Nagar in Kolkata. So we spent a lot of time on the training ground. Both the coaches were adamant that yes, it's a 9 to 5 job. It's not just a 90-minute session. So we used to go to the training ground, an hour prior to the training session, settle down. Uh, we as coaches used to have a conversation as to what the session is going to be. Lay out the markers. The players used to get in, get their pre session massages if needed, injury prevention stuff, etc. Then get onto the field of play, have a good training session, get back again, wait for an hour while the players recovered, had their ice baths, their shower. We used to kind of debrief. So both the seasons we had a very good structure to it, and if it had not been for the round glass setup, it would have been, I think, I would have had a much more tougher time in the IB. So so it was good being with round glass in the I League, uh, and it was a learning experience as well. It was a learning experience as well. Both Curtis and Ashley uh, had high demands for the players, but one thing that set them apart was they did everything to make sure that the players were had everything that they needed to perform on the field of play. And uh, we had uh, good strength and conditioning coaches that I still fall back on with respect to physical protocols. Uh, you know, Curtis and Ashley are always a call away if needed. So the philosophy that both these coaches used was very similar to what I had kind of worked upon in AIFF, and I could kind of further refine my approach based on what how they perceived that philosophy with Round Glass Punjab. So there were a lot of learnings for me. I think in these 2 seasons in the I League with Round Glass Punjab was the most that I've learned about myself as a coach, and I've set a very good standard with respect to what I would like now to do as a coach, how I would like to approach preseason, what would I do in season, how do you prepare for a match week, a single match week, a double match week, and that helped
Mm-hmm.
me a lot when I was when I had to prepare, a mini preseason for Northeast United as well. All I had to do was fall back on the notes of my time at Roundless Punjab, and everything fell back into place.
So that sets us up to for this last season gone by. You take the plunge into the ISL, become an assistant coach at
Yeah.
Northeast United. We spoke a little at the start about the recent appointment of Mandar Tamane as CEO. How was it? How different was the ISL compared to what you'd seen and experienced in different positions in the I League?
Oh, it was a huge learning experience. I've never had a season that has been so up and down ever in my entire coaching career. With respect to the quality of the ISL, it was fantastic. My very first game was at Bengaluru.
Oh,
the
yeah.
ambience, uh, the setting, the stage was set for the ISL, and that kind of, I was setting up the markers for the warm up, and I just stood there in the center circle, and I just had a look around the Kantirava. I was like, this is what the ISL is all about, and it's definitely on a different level as compared to the I League where I was before, and so it's definitely on a league on a level much higher
How
than
was
what.
that day? Just to go into that, you guys were very very unlucky not to get that equalizer
Yeah,
by the referee, and again crazy scenes at the Kantirava in the end. So to say, with the
yeah.
BFC fans being happy, your head coach
That-
Marco wasn't the very friendliest to the officials. But how was that? The highs and the lows. I mean, you said pre-match again. I love that, to go into a stadium pre-match, go run around. I did that. I remember the first season of the ISL
yeah.
at the Jawaharlal Nehru Stadium in Kochi. With a full
Okay.
stadium in there, and with that
Yeah.
whole atmosphere, that vibe. But how was that sort of going into it? You have a football game, an intense game. It sadly most probably sort of was a precursor to the season. You had some matches where you could have gotten a result, you didn't get a result. How was that
Yeah.
feeling in the end?
Arunava, as an assistant coach, it's a completely different perspective to what a head coach is going through the entire season. So we had Marco as the head coach, we had Paul and Nile, two coaches, the assistant and the SNC, who had won the league with Chennai FC, who had won the ISL with Chennai FC. Nile was a Premier League winner with Manchester City under Roberto Mancini. So there was so much of experience in that group that it was my job was basically just to kind of supplement what they are doing. So I had a lot of time to soak in the atmosphere, to kind of uh, feel what the ISL is all about. And fortunately, all three of them were very open to suggestions and very open to uh, suggestions, be it in training or in the game as well. Even in that game as well, there were a couple of substitutions that were due to happen, and I was very happy that my suggestions were taken into considerations, because it's a kind of a little you know a sensitive area when it comes to substituting foreigners. Who to get in which position. So there was a lot of deliberation, and it kind of worked.
And to add to
And
that, your head is not on the chopping block, right? The head coach is always, who is in danger.
exactly. So it gives you a lot of time to assess what's going on around you, and that's where I think as a coach, I've always been open to what's going on around me. I don't have a close perspective. It's not like my way or the highway, or this guy. I don't like what he's doing, and I'm not going to listen to him. I'm open to whatever is happening, whatever philosophy the coach brings in, because I believe as an assistant coach, it's my job to make sure that the head coach's philosophy is a success. It
Mhm.
transfers well onto the players. I make sure that the players understand what he requires, and they deliver on the pitch. So I take my responsibility really seriously when it comes to that, and at the same time, I'm always learning what to do. So the period under Marco was for me a period where I wasn't as busy as I wanted to be as a coach, but at the same time I was learning a lot about the ISL, not just the match day aspect, the travel, the preparation for teams, which was on a different level altogether. Uh, the intensity of the game was much higher than I expected. The quality was much higher than I expected. And more importantly, it was the atmosphere around you. When you go in stadiums like the Kantirava, when you go in stadiums like the Jawaharlal Nehru in Kochi, they kind of grow on you. And there were players who weren't able, there were a lot of players who had come in from the I League into the team for the ISL, and they were kind of taken aback by the atmosphere. So as a coach, it was important for us to kind of help them settle down, calm the nerves down a little bit. So I learned a lot from that experience, and that helped me at the end of the season. even when Vincenzo came in. So it was a big learning experience for me, but a lot of ups and downs. I've not experienced that in my entire coaching career. That I've gone through two head coaches, three strength and conditioning coaches, and a lot of more, a lot happening in the background, which has given me a different learning experience altogether.
Yeah, you're used to the happy family at Kinkre FC, and now you had to sort of go into the realities of how an ISL team under pressure performs. How disappointing was it? You spoke about the Kantiraba, we've spoken about also the Kochi stadium atmosphere, that your home matches were not well attended, that the Highlander fans, that the Highlander brigade sort of have
Yeah.
given a little bit up on the team, of course, due to the failures over the years of the team. How disappointing was that? Because I remember also in season one, a relatively full stadium. I remember John Abram was standing next to me, and we watched the game together, and and it was a brilliant atmosphere. But this time around, you played nearly in empty stadiums.
Yeah, it was disappointing. Towards the start of the season, there was at least a small group of Highlanders brigade that was there, and throughout the season, we had a lot of conversation with them. They were even present at training sessions, and they made it very clear at that point of time that we are always there to support the team, come high or low. But the reason they weren't there was they had a thing or two against the management. So it was very clear from their side that it's not the team that they are up against. It's they wanted clarity with respect to what's happening at Northeast United. So that is why I said, when as now the appointment of Mandar hopefully has given a point in the right direction for the club, and I think that he will also, as an individual, connect with the Highlanders brigade and kind of assure them as to what will be done at the club. And for sure, I think once they buy into what's going to happen henceforth, we'll see the numbers rising, and I'm hoping to see the numbers rise because that stadium and that region deserves a full capacity to play. So and we had quite a few Highlanders, coming in even for the Durand Cup when the reserve team was playing. So they are there. When the reserve team was playing a local tournament in another district in Assam, there were a few hundred Highlanders brigade in the stands as well. So I don't think there's a lack of support, but I think they are very much sure that they want some clarity as to where the club's heading, and uh, and what are the plans for the coming season, because they are very passionate about the club. They want the club to succeed, and results are always a byproduct, but they want to see a process put in place. And I think
Mm.
that could be said to anybody who has worked with Northeast United. He would say the same thing. And if that is set in place, everything else around it will start flourishing, with it.
That's very, very good to hear. And I think it's a big reassurance to the Highlander Brigade and the Highlanders fans. I'll come to the last section of our candid football conversations, and that is that Akshata on Twitter announced that you would be our guest, and people had the chance to ask questions. Interestingly, yeah, most of the topics are topics that we actually would have spoken about or did speak about, but still, first of all, Conrad Barreto says, Coach FP Akshata Shukla scouses on the show. So that was an observation. Yes, Conrad, you're very, very right. Two of them. The second one is from Ronit, spoke about it at the start. What is his
Thailand.
viewpoint on appointment of Mandar Tamane as CEO? What changes can we expect to happen at the club? So I think you spoke about it at the start. Then are two questions regarding your own future, which is interesting. Ashutosh Pense questions what are his future plans after good performance with Northeast United in the Super Cup. So yes, what are your plans? Do you
Well,
have plans?
my first job would be to give a call to Mandar and ask him whether my job is still safe at Northeast United. That would be my first call. But I'm also very much keen to do my pro license. I think that's the base that will give me the base for my next step in my coaching career. Until I have that, I missed out on the first course, which is the reason why I joined ISL, ironically, in the first place. So I'm very aggressive with respect to my licenses. So my immediate plan would be to get that done. Uh, I hope that I'll be part of the Northeast team for the coming season. If not, I'll have to look around for able suitors. But like I said, uh, I really like to if someone needs me, if someone has a plan in place, has a structure in place, I'm very much open to working within a system. Because I don't only confine myself to the first team and improving players that are with the first team. At the end of the Super Cup, I also mentioned that the most important part right now is the recruitment for Northeast United.
Mm.
So getting in the right players, getting in the players that would take this team forward with respect to performances, with respect to results, is the need of the hour. Also setting in place a good kind of structure to the club, right from the reserves to the youth system. There are coaches that are working hard in the reserves as well, but we need to have a definite plan for them. So I'm more than happy to kind of not just sit around with the first team and kind of play around there, but also provide whatever experience I've learned with the Indian Arrows, with the AFF youth setups, with King KFC, uh, to the coaches at the club and to the structure of the club, so that we have a solid base to build on. So let's see what the future holds. I think, but for Northeast United, I think it can only go forward from here with Mandar's appointment. So I'm hoping to be part of that. Right.
All right. So it's Mandar. Floyd is waiting for that call to realize what is holds if he stays at the club or not. Final question from Roshan Kurovilla. It's a little similar to what we've been speaking about, but still I want to place that question because these guys have put in their questions. What did he do after the horrible ISS season to get such a decent performance? If he has a chance for coaching job abroad, would he leave? Which style of play is his favorite one? So I think we've covered most of it, but again, if you got a coaching chance abroad, would you take it?
Definitely, I would. I would, because I've been to quite a few countries with Kenkre. I've been to quite a few countries with the AFF setup as well, and it's not uh, uh, we aren't too far ahead when it comes to the coaching aspect. The coaches that come from abroad are exposed to so much more in terms of technology, in terms of philosophies, and more importantly in terms of competition, that I feel if you as a coach are uh, always keeping yourself up to date with what's happening in European football or Asian football, I don't feel it's impossible for any Indian coach. But what worked for me in the Super Cup was that I we were prepared with what we needed to do right from the first day that we took over till the first game of the Super Cup. And I think that preparation, that detail, that attention to detail with respect to the physical parameters, with respect to the technical and tactical aspect, and more importantly, when you are prepared and when the players realize that there's something organized happening, it affected them mentally in a very positive way, and that kind of filtered right through the team. And towards the end of that one month of training, uh, the players were looking forward. They were so high when it came to team spirit that we said, okay, at the start of the Super Cup, we may have just been a team to participate in it, but I think now we actually have a chance to be very competitive in whichever game we play. So uh, so it applies anywhere you go. As a coach, you need to be able to adapt to the surroundings that you have, the technical, tactical aspects of the players that are with you. So why not?
Floyd, we've come to the end of this candid football conversation. I would like to thank you so much for taking your time out to talk to me, and also thank you to the guys with your questions on Twitter. Also, keep them coming for the next interview guests whenever we announce them. And also, who would you like to see on Candid Football Conversations? Like, subscribe, share. SportsKhabri, Arun Foot, and as well as this conversation. And Floyd, all the best for you in your future career. And I, for one, will surely be following it. We've been following it for many, many years. We met many, many years back through Joshua in
I know.
Mumbai, and
Yes.
hopefully, you'll be able to grow even further than what you've already achieved in these few years.
Thank you so much for having me, and I hope shows like this keep going on. You keep getting more and more popular, whether it be on Twitter, whether it be on Instagram, because it's good, for people to know what's happening in Indian football. It's important to know a personal point of view from coaches, everyone involved in the game, and it's always good to interact. I, for one, am very open to interacting with whether it be uh, supporters or detractors, whoever it may be. It's good to have a point of view. It's good to have a conversation, because when everyone's on the same page, then your expectations are also on the same page as well. And I think that's important to have with respect to the football community in India.
Brilliantly said, Floyd. Thanks a lot once more, and everyone, like, share, and subscribe. This was the latest interview of Candid Football Conversations.